At the dawn of the 18th century, the world was about to undergo a radical transformation. What began as a revolution in machines and factories in Great Britain would ripple across the globe, forever changing the way people lived, worked, and interacted with the world around them. This is the story of the Industrial Revolution, a revolution not fought with guns or bloodshed, but with gears, steam engines, and innovations that would reshape society. A revolution that gave birth to modern industry, urbanization, and the complexities of the modern world as we know it today. Before the Industrial Revolution, the majority of people lived in rural areas, relying on agriculture for survival. Life moved at a slow pace, with communities largely self-sufficient, producing goods by hand and living within small, isolated villages. In this world, most people worked with their hands. Skilled artisans and craftsmen, from weavers to blacksmiths, made products one by one. Every town had its workshops, where items were created through slow, manual labor. But by the late 17th century, things were beginning to change. Population growth, advancements in agriculture, and the need for more efficient systems started to set the stage for one of the most important shifts in human history. In the 18th century, Great Britain stood at the crossroads of a revolution. A combination of factors, including geographical advantages, political stability, and an empire that facilitated trade, created the perfect environment for industrial change. At the heart of this revolution were new inventions. The textile industry, which had been the backbone of British economy for centuries, saw remarkable innovations like the spinning jenny, the power loom, and the water frame. These machines were faster, more efficient, and capable of producing textiles at a scale never seen before. But it wasn't just in textiles where change occurred. The invention of the steam engine by James Watt in 1775 was a game-changer. It provided a new, powerful energy source that transformed factories, mining operations, and transportation alike, powering everything from factories to locomotives. With the advent of these new machines, factories were born. Large-scale manufacturing replaced small workshops, and cities began to grow rapidly around these industrial centers. No longer were people working from home or small rural towns. They were drawn to factories in search of work. But this rapid growth came at a cost. The factories were noisy, dangerous, and unsanitary. Workers faced long hours, sometimes up to 16 hours a day, and meager wages. Many children were employed, operating machines in tight spaces, which led to widespread injuries and exploitation. As people flocked to the cities, overcrowding became rampant. Urban centers like Manchester and Liverpool grew at an unprecedented rate. But with the growth came squalor, overcrowded housing, filthy streets, and inadequate sanitation. Cities became breeding grounds for disease, and living conditions were often worse than those in the countryside. While the Industrial Revolution brought immense challenges, it also unleashed unprecedented economic growth. Factories produced goods at a scale that had never been possible before. Raw materials from colonies and international trade filled the markets with products like textiles, iron, coal, and steel. Capitalism was transformed during the Industrial Revolution. Wealth became concentrated in the hands of industrialists and entrepreneurs who owned factories and mines. The rise of the factory system marked the end of the cottage industry, and a new class of wealthy industrialists emerged, known as the capitalist class. But while the factory owners flourished, the workers remained trapped in poverty. The gap between the rich and the poor grew, creating stark class divisions. The wealth generated by industrialization was not shared equally. Most workers lived in poverty, with few rights or protections. The Industrial Revolution wasn't limited to factories alone. It revolutionized transportation, too. Railways and steamships dramatically reduced travel time, making it easier to move people and goods across the country and beyond. This created new markets, facilitated the spread of ideas, and helped to integrate regions that were previously isolated. Mass production became the norm. Assembly lines, machine-made goods, and interchangeable parts all emerged from the innovations of the period. These methods increased productivity and lowered the costs of manufacturing, making products more affordable and available to the growing middle class. But with progress came conflict. The harsh conditions in factories led to the rise of labor movements. Workers began to organize for better wages, safer working conditions, and reasonable working hours. The growth of unions became a major part of the social landscape during the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution did not remain confined to Britain. It spread rapidly across Europe, North America, and eventually the world. The global economy transformed as nations adopted industrial methods to compete in an increasingly interconnected world. Countries like Germany, the United States, and Japan quickly followed Britain's lead. Industrialization led to the rise of new powers on the global stage and altered the balance of power between nations. The Industrial Revolution also paved the way for the modern age, ushering in advancements in medicine, communication, and infrastructure. It changed the way people lived and worked, and began to create the modern industrial society we know today. The Industrial Revolution was a time of incredible change, both positive and negative. It brought about technological innovations that continue to shape our world, but it also created deep social inequalities and difficult working conditions. As we look back, we can see that this transformative period laid the foundation for the modern world, with all its complexities and contradictions. Like, subscribe, and share for more explorations of history's greatest transformation.